the webinar, and then we will start. 1 minute, please, because we are admitting now the last participants, and we have already a nice group of participants to this webinar. We had more than 60 inscriptions to this webinar, and so maybe let's wait 1 or 2 minutes before starting the webinar. Okay, let's start. Good morning to you all. Good morning to our guest speakers that are with us. Gunawan Mia, Elisa Gavazza, and Joana Catarino. Well, it's a pleasure to have you here with us, and first of all, I would like to thank you for your presence here to this webinar and to share with us your knowledge about ZDHC and about the management of chemical substances, which is a very important matter, especially in this moment. I would like also to thank all participants their presence, and we hope that this webinar can meet your best expectations. We will have this webinar for more or less 1 hour and a half. The first hour we will take the free presentations of our speakers, and the last 20 to 30 minutes will be designated to all the questions that you can put during the presentations. You can use the box that the platform has, and you can put the questions in Portuguese. Then I can translate them during the debate. Okay. This webinar we will start with Mia. She works at H&M as Global Sustainability Program Manager for Chemicals. She will give us the perspective from the brands about restricted substances. H&M is a fashion company with several brands and that work in Portugal with several footwear companies, and as a roadmap towards safe products and the toxic-free fashion future. And so I can now pass my this webinar to Mia. Thanks, Mia.
Thank you so much, Rui. Thank you for having me today. Can you see my screen, by the way? My presentation looks okay, right? Okay.
Okay.
Well,
okay. It's okay. It's okay.
Yeah. Thank you. Thanks everyone for being here and attending, and Rui and everybody for having me today here. My name is Mia Gunawan, and like Rui said, I'm the program manager for chemical when it comes to H&M global production. So my role is to manage and coordinate the implementation of all the chemical programs within the H&M supply chain. And here today, I would like to share with you how we are doing that chemical programs. And basically, since we are a ZDHC signatory brand, the way we implement our chemical program is by also implementing the ZDHC program. So here I would like to share with you how we are doing that and why from a brand's perspective like H&M, it is important for you to be a ZDHC, to be aligned with ZDHC and then their guidelines. So yes, so ZDHC is of course an industry platform, and I would say that the most main important document that or guideline that they have is the MRSL, and this is different than what we usually have, which is the RSL, which is the restricted substance list that only focuses on the final product. And here with the MRSL, now we actually turn the focus not only on the final product, but through the production process. And in terms of sustainability perspective, this is the most important, because if you can control everything within the production, then you also already, make sure that you are minimizing your risks to your workers and also to the environment. And by only using the best chemicals, then in the production, and obviously your final product will be so much better and so much safer too, because you already control everything within the production, instead of waiting to see in the final product if your products are meeting the regulations or meeting all the restrictions right there. So this puts the control back into the production, and we believe that this is how it should be. And when in 2011 we had this Greenpeace we had the Greenpeace campaign. So Greenpeace targeted most of the major fashion brands to clean up our supply chain. We gathered together, and then as a result of that, then we have the ZDHC organization. And because with the ZDHC organization, we then thought, like, how can we better secure our supply chain? And the answer was that we need to control the chemical at a production stage. So we select and use only the best chemical to begin with, so that then during the process and during the safe products and the wastewater that came out from the factory, they will all be okay and not hazardous, because we are already using the best products to begin with. And so ZDHC becomes like a common platform. It has a common MRSL, it has a common wastewater standard, and it also has like other like common tool to track your achievement. So it is a one standard to follow. It is simple and it's effective. And it's, I would say that it's very nice for the factories and suppliers as well, because then you don't have to follow different standards from each brand. Now, if you're working with all ZDHC brands, then like you can just say, yeah, I'm already following ZDHC MRSL. And whether you are working with H&M or other ZDHC brand, like for example, there are many ZDHC brands like Inditex or others, then they would also use the same ZDHC MRSL. So, and then you can, of course, look into like who are the ZDHC members. I would say like most major European brands are also in there. And what is also, I would say, would be a good thing for you to know is now some of the luxurious brands company are also in there as well, such as Kering and LVMH. So the scope is getting bigger and bigger. And for us as a brand, that's also great, because then our collaboration is even wider. And we are doing this together with all the other strong brands together, as a common industry. I would say that like before, when H&M used to have our own MRSL, it was okay, but it was kind of tough to implement, because then when we were talking to the supplier, we were always met with some kind of like, yeah, but now you asked me this, but then like CNA will ask me something else, like Inditex asked me something else, Esprit came with another thing. Why can't you guys like come with like one thing? And this is our answer to that. So by having the ZDHC MRSL, we are also feeling better and more secured, because we know that there are more chance that the suppliers will follow this, because we know that they are more likely to follow an industry platform rather than a brand's individual. And also we know that from our suppliers that we have worked and have long-term relations with, they are also happy with this format, because then they don't have to follow a different set of guidelines. And then also within the ZDHC, there are dedicated teams that are like, that's their job to maintain these all these standards. And whereas, for us as brands, sometimes we don't have like the expertise to do that. I mean, in H&M, we are lucky that we have a very big organization, and there are, I would say, more than 50 people just looking at chemical restrictions. But, not everybody are like that. So then this kind of levels the playing field for all the brands. So then we can deliver a better improvement as one industry instead of like driven by one brand only, or have different level of implementation from one brand to another. So that's why we think that being a ZDHC member and implementing ZDHC program is very important to our success. And when it comes to like the implementation of the chemical program, this is what it actually means to be enrolled for a ZDHC program in H&M Group. And the chemical program consists of the ZDHC. When I say chemical program, it is basically the ZDHC program. Plus, there are, of course, like some more like future-looking projects, like where we would like to go in order to kind of lead the industry and like be like kind of the frontiers of like sustainable chemistry and all of that thing. But the main thing is the ZDHC. And we are looking at all the three parts. First of all, in the input, which is, like I said, to really secure that what we're using in the production is the safest and best chemical. So we measure the ZDHC MRSL compliance for each unit. And we actually also tie this to our business decisions. So this is where we would look when we are doing your business planning. And this ZDHC MRSL compliance is actually one of the matrix in that. I mean, there are, of course, other matrix. It's not the only matrix, but it's part of it. And so we are doing this, and we are using the ZDHC approved tool to manage the input chemical, which is using the BFE cube, clean chain, and beehive. And we also require the in-check report to go along with it. And that report, you can also see it in the ZDHC platform. And then in terms of the process, which means what happens in the factory, inside your factory, then we are now referring to the ZDHC chemical management system. This is also another alignment that we did, because previously we used to have like H&M's own chemical management system, but since ZDHC now came up with their own management system, it has now become an industry platform. And for sure, we want to get behind that and make sure that we implement that towards our supplier, because then with the same logic, now they can implement the same thing and it's easier for them and it's also more impactful. And we also have some capacity building program to by using the training and also the Supplier to Zero platform. And for the output, we are, of course, doing the ZDHC wastewater test. I mean, this was the first one, I would say, that was implemented for many brands as well, because this was kind of like the first thing that came to being. It used to be like the detox standard, but then since the ZDHC MRSL came out, then it becomes the ZDHC wastewater guideline. And so we are doing this, and we are also doing the public disclosure within the ZDHC's platform Detox Live. So this is for all of our units, which is all our tier 1 with the manufacturing units and the fabric manufacturers, the strategic fabric manufacturers as well. So all existing units do this, and then even also the new units that have already fulfilled our minimum requirement, which mean that they are approved in our system, then they have to immediately follow to be in the chemical program. So there's once you're part of the H&M supply chain, then you will need to do this kind of. Then I just wanted to talk more about the MRSL compliance goal, because we believe that this is very important. We were one of the first brand who start to monitor this MRSL compliance. And even right now, I would say that we still have at least one of the most strongest performance in terms of MRSL compliance. We monitor this every month, and then we publicly publish our result every year in our sustainability report and also on our website. And I'm happy to say that like last year, we had 95% MRSL compliance, which was the highest it's ever been. And given the complexity of our supply chain, that like order changed from one month to another, I think 95% is already a really high number. I mean, of course, we are striving to get it like as close as possible to 100%, but this is, I mean, there's always a dynamic within the supply chain that like, I would say plus and minus 5% is probably already very good. And within that, I mean, in order to secure this MRSL compliance, we are asking our suppliers to also use the chemicals that come from ZDHC Gateway, which is a database of all the approved chemical according to ZDHC MRSL. And this goal, we have launched it to our mostly our textile suppliers. So the footwear, bags, and belts, which is what most of you are actually not part of this goal because there are still, I mean, in terms of numbers of chemical, there are few, I mean, there are far less chemicals that can be applied to footwear, bags, and belts. I mean, right now they're just trying to still increase, whether for the textile, it's already a very, very saturated database. So like our textile suppliers actually don't have any problem with sourcing their chemicals from ZDHC Gateway, but we believe it might still be challenging for footwear, bags, and belt. So it is not yet there, but as you can see, since we already launched it for the textile, then this is the way forward as well for footwear, bags, and belt. And I also would like to point out that why I said it's for textile, it wasn't a hard thing to do. That in last year we actually only had a goal of 60% of using the ZDHC Gateway chemical. But at the end of the year, we actually achieved 81%, so 21% above of our actual goal. And 2021 was also the first year we ever asked of this. So in 2020, I didn't even ask for like utilization of ZDHC Gateway. We were just like, use whatever as long as you can reach the 100% MRSL compliance. But then in 2021, we were like, okay, why don't we make this even better that you now source from ZDHC Gateway? And voila, like, at the end of the year, it's like even at 81%. So it's really something that is doable. And this is something that we also do as a brand to push the chemical industry to make sure that they have their chemical within the ZDHC database so that we make sure that their chemicals are also the best and the safest chemicals out there. And of course, now that we have succeeded with the textile chemicals, now we can, branch out more for the chemicals that are geared to the footwear, bags, and belt supply chain. So that's kind of like, our direction now and where we're going to push. And here we also need your help actually as the factory and the suppliers here, because you are actually the one who can tell us who are the chemical suppliers that are important to you. The same thing that we did in textile. I mean, when we had this goal, we also asked our suppliers, the textile suppliers, that they also communicate to their chemical supplier, hey, please get your products into ZDHC Gateway, because now H&M is going to start to monitor it. And I would like to be able to prove to H&M that I'm using the best chemicals. So the same thing can actually also happen to the footwear, bags, and belt supply chain. I mean, you demand this out of your chemical supplier, and by your demand, then chemical suppliers should and will be able to see the importance of being in the ZDHC Gateway. And once we are populated in ZDHC Gateway, then that's like kind of like the industry database. It's like an industry mall for you to be able to pick and choose your chemical. So then like it's kind of if you choose a product from there, then most likely then it will everything would be taken care for you. So that's also giving you more convenience and also better, more confidence in creating your products. So that's this is what we are doing with the textile, and then, like I said, we are going to push this more in terms of the footwear, bags, and belts. And last but not least, I also wanted to say that ZDHC can also be a platform for your success. I mean, through this ZDHC, if you are an active member of ZDHC, whether you're just registered in ZDHC or if you are actually already a signatory facility, you can reach a global audience of brands and retailers and to promote your success in innovations and something like, you know, the likes like of that. And you can also learn from other parts of the industry. Maybe there's something that you can learn from the textile side, or maybe you can learn from fellow suppliers who are in part of ZDHC of like their best practices, maybe can also be applied in your facility. And as one of the example of this success story is the DMFA phase out. So DMF is dimethyl formamide. It is very commonly used in the polyurethane. So for the artificial leather, I know most of you guys here are you know, you don't have artificial leather because you're real leather companies, but this is like very, of course, very prominent in our assortment. I mean, if you look into like H&M brand, you can see that most of the shoes and the bags that are there are not made of real leather. They are the artificial leather. So I mean, in terms of volume, artificial leathers are pretty high, very, very high, and they're mostly based in China. And DMF is this nasty solvent that goes with it. And I think it can also sometimes it's also used in leather, if I'm not mistaken. So what we are trying to do is how to phase out DMF from polyurethane industry. And given that it used to be virtually used everywhere in polyurethane industry, everybody uses that, and we would like to phase it out. We would like to create a water-based polyurethane, so taking out solvent completely from the equation. And we did this together with of course, you know, there's a lot of internal work went through this, but from external collaboration, ZDHC has actually played a really big role in it. They give us a space for brands and suppliers to come together and have this collaboration to reach the goal faster. And also by using the ZDHC platform to also advertise your achievement to the market. So this is one of the examples, I would say. It's a success story. I mean, you can see it in ZDHC's website, but I mean, I'd like to also share this because this is something very close to you as a footwear and bags and belt supplier. I mean, maybe they can also be something like this for the leather, maybe something going for chrome-free leather. I mean, this is, of course, an area that we are closely working with in H&M, and hopefully we can see similar success story in the leather, the European leather industry as well. So yeah, that's it from me, actually. Thanks for listening. And then I would be very happy if you have like any questions. We can maybe have it like after all of the participants have gone through, right, Rui, or I don't know.
Yes, thank you, Gunawan. Thank you for your presentation. And as you told now in the end, the participants can put their questions in the box of conversation. Okay. And in the end of all the presentations, we will have time for a debate and the opportunity for you to answer the questions that sure will get to us.
Okay.
Thanks. Okay. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Gunawan. So we'll go now to the next presentation. We will have with us now Elisa Gavazza, which works at the ZDHC Foundation as a Southern Europe director. Well, we start by talking about ZDHC, and ZDHC is the acronym for Zero Discharge of Hazardous Chemicals. So Elisa Gavazza will talk with us about the objectives. What is ZDHC Foundation, and what is their objectives, and how the companies in Portugal can develop work towards these objectives. So ZDHC is a global multi-stakeholder initiative of more than 170 contributors, including brands, suppliers, chemical formulators, solution providers, and associations committed to the elimination of harmful chemical across the textile and footwear value chain. So ZDHC aims the widespread implementation of sustainable chemistry through the use of the Roadmap to Zero program. Elisa will talk about that in this presentation. So thank you, Elisa. When we have here a partnership. So Elisa will tell me when she wants me to put the presentation on, and so it's our partnership today. Please, Elisa, you can start. Do you want that I put my presentation?
Can you hear me? Yeah.
Your presentation? Yes.
Yes. Yes, you can share my presentation. Thank you very much. It's a real pleasure to be here today. I'm, as you said, here as a regional director of the Southern Europe for ZDHC. So I'm actually based in Italy, but I'm involved in the implementation of the program, not only in Italy, but also in Spain, Portugal, and France. So the Southern European region is, not only Italy, but also Portugal, Spain, and France. Let's say that, there were a lot of information already shared about ZDHC, and I really thank you, Mia, for that, because, ZDHC is working in the implementation of a collective action. So the support from brand is really paramount from us, and being here today, speaking together with the brand is really important. So you can go to the next slide, please. Next, please. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Can you hear me?
Yes, Elisa, the presentation is on.
Okay, yeah, I see still the first slide, so maybe it's me that I'm still in the first slide.
Okay, I now put the second slide.
Yes, fine. So, I mean, as also Rui has, briefly introduced, our vision is the widespread implementation of sustainable chemistry, driving innovation and best practices. So, as the name of the association summarizes, so zero discharge of hazardous chemicals, the main scope is to reduce the use of harmful chemicals in the leather, footwear and textile industry. And I mean, the idea was really to focus on the input. So you can go to the next slide. When you come to a chemical management implementation and you focus yourself on the income, so really on the chemicals you are using, you will get multiple benefits on all your output. They can be wastewater, they can be air emission, they can be product quality, they can be waste. So everything will be better if you move to a strategical approach when you choose your chemical. And this was the real shifting of point of view that ZDHC has introduced. Not look at the end, just look at the beginning. Put your effort in the better choice in order to have better output. So it's like, today, when we are talking about MRSL, that means Manufacturing Restricted Substances List, when we are talking about sustainable chemistry, there is already some understanding of this, but you have to think that ZDHC was born in 2011, so it's more than 10 years ago. That means at that moment when we start talking about MRSL, to say what? We use PRSL, so we are actually using NRSL on the end product. What now you are asking for an MRSL? And this was, the paradigm shift that we have introduced. Next, please.
Okay.
Next.
It is. It is the next. It is already on, Elisa.
Yeah. Okay. So let's say that. Yeah, as we have already, mentioned, everything started because there was a pressure on brands from Greenpeace that started the detox campaign, which is still active. So Greenpeace is still monitoring how is the evolution of the sustainable chemistry within the textile, footwear, and leather industry. And, it came quickly to an understanding that if we are willing really to change the manufacturing processes, then we need collective action. We need collaboration. We need transparency. So this is the only way to face these big challenges, which is the environmental one. So we are taking care for sure about the product safety, but we should also take care about what we put into the environment. Next, please. So ZDHC, as I said, was born like an initiative from a few brands. They were 6 at the beginning, and then a foundation was, created in Amsterdam. So actually there is a foundation located in Amsterdam. And from that moment, we started to produce our guidance document and solutions. In the group of ZDHC, we have also regional directors like myself. I'm not the only one. We also have a team in India as well as a team in China. This is, to be near all those locations which are strategically important for the production from a brand perspective. Next, please. And from this slide, you can see all the contributors at ZDHC. I'm sure you will recognize several of your clients. And what is important to notice here is that we often talk about brands, about their goals, about, for sure, their willingness to be less impactant on the environment. But at a certain point, it came very clear the understanding of the fact that, the program would have been more successful if also chemical industry, textile and footwear industry, solution provider, as well as association would have been able to be part of the initiative. That's why we came to a multi-stakeholder approach in which we have contributors, for sure, from the side of the brands, but also contributors from the chemical industry, contributors from the textile and footwear industry. And this is because we are really willing to develop a program that fit the purpose. So every contributor is really active within the foundation when we develop our guidance document, solutions and tools. And this is very important. So it's not, just the brand perspective, but the textile and footwear industry can give their opinion, their point of view, and also in this moment that we are really taking a lot of attention into the input, into the chemical, also the chemical industry is on board. And if you are willing to become one contributor, the door is always open, so you can then reach out to me and we can, provide you with more information on that. Next, please. And as we said, the idea behind the Roadmap to Zero program is quite clear. So we have divided the possibility to act to reduce the environmental impact into 3 stages. In the one that we used to call an holistic approach. So we have the input, we have the process, and we have the output. And now we will see for every of these stages which is, the Roadmap to Zero program applicable to that, and which are the platform. Because, what's important is that ZDHC is setting the goals, but is also willing to give the suppliers support to reach out these goals. This means to create a platform that are really guiding suppliers to implement the program. Next, please. So when we talk about input, so management of the chemicals that you are using in your factory, we have a group of guidance document. The most important we have already mentioned is the MRSL, which means Manufacturing Restricted Substances List. That is a list of substances that the industry is not supposed to use intentionally during production processes. These are chemicals with very high impact on the environment as well as on the human health. And around these principle document, there are also other guidance. And what is important is that in the idea to reach out the most possible implementation, all the guidance documents I mentioned in my presentation are freely available on our website. So each of you can go on the website, just download the guidance, look inside and take inspiration to implement the program. And when we come to input, the main database and tool is the ZDHC Gateway. So the gateway is the platform in which chemical suppliers are requested to upload those formulations which are compliant to the MRSL and that have been certified as compliant to the MRSL from one of the certification body accepted by ZDHC. So in this way, chemical suppliers are able to generate and to print eventually from the gateway a certificate which is named ChemCheck report. That is a certificate applicable to the specific chemical, indicating characteristics, name and level of the certification. But also this gateway from the input perspective is a source of procurement for the suppliers, because suppliers will have life easy if they can just say, okay, I have the need to implement the ZDHC program. How can I select my input chemistry? Go on the gateway, check for the formulations you need, and you will find formulations which are already in compliance with the MRSL. This means for you reducing the possibility that one of the chemicals within the MRSL are in your production processes. And you can generate a certificate as a supplier, which is the in-check report, which is based on your chemical inventory, and that will give you a figure on how many of the chemicals which are present in your inventory are also matching and within the gateway. So this is the important functionality on the gateway side for the input. Next, please. When we come to the process, this means to implement a chemical management. And then I would say that for sure, you all in Portugal are already managing somehow your chemicals. There are for sure legislation in place. You are meeting those legislations, but the chemical management from a ZDHC perspective is a little bit more than only meeting the chemical legislation and the legislation in place. Is just to make sure the MRSL is respected and everything in the process is under control, and all the tools that ZDHC offers are in use. So to explain you clearly how to do a chemical management according to the ZDHC Roadmap to Zero, we have developed this platform, which is called Supplier Platform. This platform is only accessible to suppliers, and it contains a lot of questions, a lot of guidance documents that supplier can see, can read to implement the chemical management. So, I mean, within the supplier platform, there are several levels, but what is important is that using the same account and credential of the gateway, you are also able to get into this platform and be able to receive a support to the implementation of the chemical management in agreement with ZDHC guidance document. Next, please. And the supplier platform, if you click one more, you should see some figures. In the supplier platform, there are also other pieces in development. Please go next. Yeah, there is a section dedicated to use case. It's like a way to showcase best implementation practices. Next. There will be soon also a section related to the root cause analysis and corrective action plan, because, I mean, everyone can, have issue in pieces of the implementation. So the idea is to support supplier also in solving any issue that is going to happen. Next, please. We are really working on helping supplier to meet new resource efficiency goal that is going to come very quickly as demand from the industry. So there will be a new module soon, not only for the chemical management in the platform, but also how to use resourcing in the correct way in order to reduce consumes. And then the last one, next please. You will have soon also a part related to man-made cellulosic fibers. So the platform is really what you need as a supplier for the implementation. Next. And when it comes to the output, in this moment, ZDHC is focused on wastewater. This is in this moment because we still have out a position paper on air emission, but we don't have yet a guidance document. But the idea is then to cover all the output from a supplier perspective. So you can go on the website again, look in depth about wastewater guidance. We have just published the day before yesterday the new version of the wastewater guidance. And what is the request basically? Is to test your wastewater according to the MRSL and according to the guidance document 2 times per year, and ask the lab to upload results on our platform, which is the gateway. And for sure, you all are testing already somehow your wastewater, if you have them, because you have legal permits and you have to be able to demonstrate that you are working according to your legal permits. But no one of your legal requirements will for sure cover the full MRSL and the scope of ZDHC. That's why we ask suppliers to keep monitoring the wastewater to make sure there is no entrance of MRSL chemicals in the production process. This is basically 2 times per year, and you should keep distance of 3 or 4 months between 2 consecutive sampling. Once your results of the wastewater testing are on the gateway, you can generate a report that is the clear stream report, that is one single way to read the results of your testing that are all accepted by brands. To do testing, please keep in mind that you should be able to select a lab which is accepted from ZDHC perspective. So this lab is able to guarantee high quality of the results and is also able to upload your results on the gateway. Next, please. And this is, where we are standing now. Maybe you have some questions in your head. We have already 5,500 more suppliers accounts, so suppliers which register themselves on the gateway and which are active on the gateway. We have more than 1,400 formulators account and more than 53,000 chemical products. So and the gateway is really growing exponentially. And what is important to know from your side is that the gateway is working on invitation. So as a supplier, you can be invited by brand to enter into the gateway. You can even ask invitation to the regional director, or there is a specific help function within our website, and you can ask invitation there. And you, as a supplier, can invite your chemical formulator, and the chemical formulator can then go into the gateway and register the compliant products. So it's like a cascade mechanism that is working if everyone is doing his piece of work in the proper way and is also involving the supply chain in doing that. Next, please. So next, we have two platforms. As I said, one is the gateway, and the gateway is for input, selecting chemicals, and output, wastewater testing for the moment. While the supplier platform, that is another platform that you can easily enter using the same account that you have already in the gateway, maybe, hopefully, is your implementation platform. As suppliers, you can go there and implement your program. Next, please. So ZDHC is really willing to have an implementation for purpose. That is why we have programs for each of the stakeholders, because you have to know that brands, they have their own brand leader program. So they are actually evaluated every year by an external third party to see how they are fulfilling the KPIs related to ZDHC implementation. But also suppliers now have their own program, and this program is based on the supplier platform. And within this year, we will launch a good piece of program for chemical suppliers. Because what is happening now is that chemical suppliers are requested to respect the MRSL, which is absolutely fine. And this will be maintained also in the future. But if you respect an MRSL, is this chemical really less toxic? Is this chemical really helping you to reduce the use of water? How this chemical may affect the quality of the end product. So the idea is to expand the program for chemical suppliers, introducing other attributes to the chemical formulation, not only the compliance to the MRSL, but also other information on toxicity, water consumption, for example, energy consumption, and quality performances that the chemical can grant on the end product. And this is really with the purpose to drive an implementation that is where it's clear for every of these stakeholders which are the benefits for them. Next, please. So I just came to the end of my part. I hope this was, enough clear to you. The program, to implement the program, and I just want to spend a few words, just 1 minute, will really give you, as a supplier and chemical manufacturer, a lot of benefit, because when you are on the gateway, you gain visibility. You gain the possibility to have new clients, on board, because all brands that are contributor to ZDHC can access the gateway and can actually see you, both if you are a supplier and also if you are a chemical manufacturer. Also, suppliers are really using the gateway to select the input chemistry. So if you are a chemical manufacturer, you will get a lot of advantages in being there, because there are many search functions that will help the suppliers to narrow down their research and to come to your chemicals. The program is out since 10 years. And much more brands are coming on board. So I think, the direction is now very clear. This will become somehow in the future the new way of producing, and the way that will allow all the suppliers to be more reactive to brands' requests, more reactive to any eventual topic related to chemistry and environmental chemistry and environmental sustainability that is going to pop up. So I really think it's now the correct time for you to start to approach the program, to start to use the platform, because you will see really how this will improve your day-to-day activity. So thank you for that. I'm sorry, I just deactivated the video because I noticed this slow down the connection somehow. But
okay, thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much, Elisa, for your presentation. As I told before, we will have, after the next presentation, we will have 20 minutes more or less for questions and debate. So I invite the participants to put those questions, to start putting those questions during this last presentation of that will follow the Elisa presentation. You can put your questions in Portuguese. We will translate them to the speakers. Okay, next presentation is from Joana Catarino. Joana Catarino works at CTCP as a consultant in the implementation of environmental management system and on implementation of processes for chemical substances management. And Joana will talk about specifically about the approach that Portuguese companies can adopt to implement and manage the use of chemical substances according to this MRSL. So Joana, please, the screen is yours. You can start. Thank you.
Hello to all. Good morning. Thank you for being in this session. I will start my presentation. Now we already know what the ZDHC is and what is this program, and also we hear about Mia, the perspective of a brand. I'd like to show you one of the many processes you can implement to have an efficient chemical substances management. This is one of the procedures we are trying to implement in some companies. Most of you are here with us, and to the new ones, and specifically to the chemical suppliers. While you are not in the gateway from ZDHC, we can show how can you. I think you were not seeing the presentation. Okay. It's okay now.
Okay, Joana, now it's okay. Okay.
I didn't share. I was just seeing for myself. Okay, now with this approach, I will introduce you. The objectives are to avoid the presence of restricted chemical substances. This will also could help you in the monthly control of the consumption of the chemical products. You can use it also to include some other information from required from the clients and from the brands. Some of the brands are in the ZDHC platform and program. You know those requests, and you also can control the chemical input into your product and into their process. We'll start. One of the aims of this program is to create a chemical inventory list. So, in the beginning, we are in the design and development process. So you are trying to create a new pair of shoes or a new bag or a new belt. So you are trying to think about the materials. So you are selecting leather, real leather, like Mia said, or synthetics. You have to select the outsoles and also the other components and applications. Many of components that a pair of shoes has. To assemble all those materials, we'll need some adhesive and finishing products and also cleaning products. So we have to use chemical products in our process. We also have to choose the packaging and how to control all these materials and all the content of these materials to trying to comply with the restricted substance list in the final product. That was the way we started to control the pair of shoes is going to a laboratory and is tested to comply, to show to the client and to the brands that you comply with these, the presence of, not presence of these substances. Now you are a little bit forward, so you have to ask for your suppliers in the first way to assure that they comply with these restricted lists in the leather and in the components. Usually the footwear companies ask by declaration to their suppliers that they also accomplish the concentrations and the limits of these substances. This is in the input from the material supplier chain. But we have also the specific products that we can control on the content and the components that are present in the recipe of the chemical products. First, we have to contact the chemical supplier. We'll ask the safety data sheet. They will send us, and we are trying to concentrate in one map or in one list all the information that is required by the clients. Most of the units, they already include in this inventory the lot number, the purchase date, and the classification of the hazardous of the products. And we'll use this list and this inventory to evaluate ZDHC and MRSAL compliance at the same time. So in the design, you are trying to create a new pair of shoes, a new product, then you choose the materials like we saw before, and now we have to glue the outsole with the shoe. How can we have compliance of the MRSAL substances? Contact the supplier, have the safety data sheet. We are seeing a practical case. How can you do this evaluation? We already have the safety data sheet at several pages and several sections. So we'll start with our product. We have a basic Excel sheet. We'll insert the name of the product, the supplier, also the use of that product, in which process of our shoes construction or bag or belt process we are using this specific product. The classification. How can we see these classifications, age phrases, and case number? We use the safety data sheet. We go to the section 2, and we'll find hazardous classification and age phrases identification. So we'll put it in our inventory. Then we'll have to see also the case number of each component, each hazardous component of the chemical product. We also can search that information in section 3 of our safety data sheet. And now we have here the case numbers of each component, hazardous component of the product. Then we will insert it in our table. We can also control our consumption of the month and the unit that the product is bought and controlled. And now we have an inventory. How can we now compare with the ZDHC compliance? We will pick up one of the first one of case numbers. Then we'll go to the ZDHC roadmap20.com site, the website from this program. We search for the version 2.1 and we click. We have here a space to insert our case number, each of one of our safety data sheet, maybe some 10 or 15 case numbers sometimes. We have only 3 in this example. We put the case number, then with our example, we see that no matching results found. So for the first case number, we can find that there is no problem. This substance is not present in this list. So we can use in our process, it can be an input for our assembly process. So first of all, it's checked, then we repeat and do all this procedure to the case numbers of our substance of our product. So okay. All chemical products must attend this procedure. For this substance, for this example, this glue, you can use it. There is no problem with our ZDHC and MRCL compliance. We can show it to the client, and we can control that we are using the authorized product. Then another example, if you have a finishing product, for instance, ABC, is also dangerous. It has the H phrases, another one than the other example. And now we have a different case number in our product. So we will repeat all this procedure, go to the site, insert the case number, and we will see that this is a restricted substance that is not authorized in the ZDHC program. So this is not a substance that we should not use. We should not let it in our facility. So this is a restricted substance. How can you will do the evaluation and it's not compliance with the ZDHC? So what we have to do to contact with our chemical supplier to find a new solution. So this is a repeating work. I know you have a lot of products. You use a lot of products in our process of footwear industry. So it's a work that has to be done in several days, not everything in one day, but we can help you to build this inventory, chemical inventory, and to analyze the safety data sheet to help you to show to our brands and yourselves that you are in compliance with ZDHC. Applying this procedure, or this is one of the solutions, we can control all the chemical input into our factory. We'll guarantee that we detect in the time that we have made an incorrect purchase. Monthly, we can control that substance shouldn't be here in our unit. This also allows us to avoid the presence of the restricted chemical substances in the final product. So if they don't come in our factory, they won't go out. Also, they won't be in our wastewater or even in our waste. Footwear usually don't have wastewater problems, but this is can assure that these restricted substances, they won't show up in the final wastewater. Then we control the input, so we'll control the output. This is a simple way to start to MRCL compliance and to guarantee the zero discharges of hazardous chemicals. I think while we don't have the gateway for our Portuguese chemical suppliers, they probably will follow the textile performance, and I'm sure they will quickly be in the platform to help us, our footwear industry and bags and belts industry, to show to the brands and to the markets they control, and they accomplish the chemical inventory list, and the MRSL compliance will be warranted. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Joana. I think you have finished your presentation. So we have now time for some questions, and so I'll ask again to the participants if they have any question. I have here 1 or 2 questions to start this debate, and so I start by putting the questions to all of you, to Joana, to Elisa, and to Gunawan. And we have here a first question from before my questions, and the question is: how can I control in our these substances, the existence of these substances in our suppliers, for instance, in our footwear components suppliers? This is one of the questions that is here. I don't know if any Elisa, Joana, or Gunawan want to speak about the relation between the footwear companies and the components.
Yeah, I can keep
components.
one if you want.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, yeah, let's say that, you know, the program actually, if you come to read the guidance document or when you come to the supplier platform, is also including a piece of action from your side, which is to involve as much as possible your suppliers. Invite them to the gateway or ask them to be invited by a brand to the gateway, because for sure the program is not requesting you to go and audit your supplier, to go and check what your supplier is really doing, but is for sure requesting that you cascade the message and the implementation to your supply chain. So the same as brands are doing with you. So they have a commitment. For sure they cannot do everything by themselves, because actually they do not own all the production, and so they involve the supply chain. So the piece you can do is really to talk with your suppliers, explain them about ZDHC, about the program, you know, inviting them on the gateway, inviting them to implement the program. So this is what they can actively do.
Yeah, that gets us to another question, which is for a company to have access to the gateway,
yeah.
It must be invited by a brand, or it might get it by its own initiative. How should a company do that?
Yeah, the mechanism is basically working on invitation, because there are different categories. So we usually do like a check that those that are going into the gateway are having really the credentials to do that, but they can even, for example, ask you, and you can give me like a list of those that are willing to be invited on the gateway, because I can do that. And in our website, we have a specific, section in where they can ask also to be invited on the gateway. So there are multiple ways on being on the gateway. I will put my email address in the chat box. So in any case, everyone is having my email address. Or another address that you can use to be invited is support@zdhc.org. But I can also leave my email address. And obviously, brands can always invite you.
So a company can wait for an invitation from a brand, or can send you an email,
yeah.
For instance, and ask to get access to the gateway.
Yes, absolutely. Because I mean, if they are in any case to jump in, maybe to create new connections with some of the brands that are on the gateway that are not yet clients, for example, they can do that.
So they have advantages in doing that, in your perspective. What kind of advantages do companies have to get in the gateway?
Yeah, let's say that in getting in the gateway, they will be clearly taking a position toward the implementation of the roadmap to zero. That means being visible to all the brands and making sure they have not to repeat test, to receive MRSL, which are different. So all those brands which are contributors are aligned on the ZDHC program. But they can even do more. They can start to promote toward those brands which are not yet contributors, the existence of the program and the fact that they are following this program, because we have also get some interesting feedback from suppliers which really implemented the program, believe in the program. At the end of the day, more suppliers are telling the same to a brands, and at the end of the day, the brand says, okay, my suppliers are already there, I will also become a contributor. So it can be, a double way, from the brand to the suppliers, but also from the suppliers to the brand. Also, I would say that to implement the chemical management, and for this I'm referring to the supplier platform, will have great benefits for every chemical request that will be done by any brands, any legislation, because, also if we look the REACH or all the other upcoming legislation, the number of chemicals which are now limited on the end product is growing and growing. We are talking about thousands of them. So if you think to make testing only on the end product, this is not working. You should be able really to give a clear structure in your company, implement a chemical management that will help you to react to any chemical issue that will be requested to you in the future. So this is really powerful, but you also will, reduce the environmental impact, have benefits on your workers, because they will be exposed to less hazardous chemicals. You can even use this implementation as a tool to promote your sustainability towards your potential client. So it's not just to, I have to implement the chemical management because someone is asking me to do that. It's because this really will change your approach to chemicals and sustainability respect to your input.
Sure. Okay, but Joana talked about the implementation of a kind of management system for chemical substances, and she gave an example of one substance that was not permitted. But companies must have options. What is the role here of the chemical industry in Gateway? Yes, because you talked about
is really to simplify life to suppliers and also get visibility on the gateway, because you can do like all the operations manually, like we have seen, so to check all the CAS number and to do a lot of work. Or maybe you can say, okay, I have an issue, how can I solve it very quickly? I go on the catalog of the gateway, because it's really like a catalog of all the formulations which are already certified by a third party as in compliance with the MRSL. So it is a level of assurance, also the fact that it's not just a self-declaration, but is a certification. And the chemical formulation will have the opposite benefit. So they will gain visibility for suppliers and brands. And they will show they have a huge catalog of formulations in compliance with the MRSL.
For instance, a chemical product company producer that produces adhesives or finishing products, what should they do to get in the gateway? The same thing? What is the work that they must, what is the first step for them?
The first step is always the invitation. Always the invitation. So every supplier that is in the gateway and every brand can also invite a chemical formulator, or they can look for self-invitation, as we said before, writing to me or through our website. They have a profile to fill in. They will have certain costs based on the number of chemicals they are willing to upload. And they will need to certify their chemicals. That means to go into one of our certification body. So we have really a lot of certification body. If we are talking about Blue Sign, Ocotex, GOTS, I mean, just some of the most known names of certification body of chemicals are also accepted in the gateway, because they really check the compliance to the MRSL. And once they have received the certificate, they can upload the chemical on the gateway. So maybe they already have some other certification, which is indeed useful to go on the gateway, and so they can just, go there and upload their products. But you will see that especially in the footwear sector, the request, the demand will really improve in the next month, because when I see all the brands, most of them, they started focusing the activity on the textile sector, which was a little bit more advanced. Then they started to involve also the leather industry, and in 2021, ZDHC published a specific addendum of the wastewater guidance documents for the leather industry. And now is the time to go and involve also the footwear industry. So I realize that today this may appear like a strange request, another request. You will go on the gateway, maybe you will not find the 80% of the chemicals, like maybe it's already happening in the textile industry. But this process started for the textile industry, for example, 5 years ago. And we took 5 years to come to that 80% that Mia was referring to before. So we understand you will find some difficulties in the implementation, and we are also here for that, because as Mia said, if you have difficulties to involve the chemical suppliers, if you have a list of chemical suppliers which are more relevant for you, on your behalf, we can come and get in contact with them to try to explain the program, to try to have an understanding from their side. So really, the ZDHC initiative is also having me as regional director, but all the other regional directors, because we are willing to be near the supplier. We are willing to help them in the implementation. So we have this really clear role, and then we can fulfill this role if there is an open dialogue with suppliers that are willing to join the program. They still have some difficulties, for sure they will have. Everyone had some difficulties at a certain point, but together we were able to overcome it. And the textile is already a great example of success.
Yeah, sure. That gets us to a comment that was made by a participant saying that sometimes it's very hard to have substitutes for hazardous products with the same performance. So the change is not easy, and alternatives doesn't fulfill all the requirements. That's the comment. And I will ask Mia, if you don't mind, what are the goals for H&M in footwear in this area of chemical substances? Because you talked about the path that H&M has made already in textile, and what about footwear? What are the goals of H&M?
Yeah, well, thank you, Rui. Obviously, we would like to replicate the success of textile as well to the footwear industry. And I mean, I wouldn't say that footwear industry is behind or anything like that. I believe footwear industry is also very advanced in terms of their you know, how they can manage their chemical and etc. It's just that right now it's not yet very spotlighted in the industry platform, which is ZDHC. So I'm not saying that like what you're currently doing is not good. I believe you're doing already great things, but it can only be better if you are part of an industry platform in which it is third-party certified, it is industry acknowledged that the chemical you're using are the best chemicals. So that's, I think, is the difference with the textile. And also in terms of the question from Sandra about like, sometimes it's hard to have substitute for hazardous products and they don't have the same performance. The same challenge we're also facing in textile. And really, I would like to echo what Elisa has said, that of course what we need is an open dialogue between between the factories and the chemical suppliers and the brands, because the chemical suppliers obviously need to know that, you know, their product who is performing well is actually hazardous, or vice versa. Their product who are not hazardous is not performing well. They need to know that, and they need to improve their chemicals. And if we don't have this open dialogue, then, you know, nothing will get improved. And if we don't have this industry platform, then, you know, the chemical suppliers might also argue, why do I need to improve? I mean, you are right now still buying my products and I deliver the same quality of products anyways. But if we have the industry collaboration in place, then they would know that, okay, this is where the industry is moving. Like, I will need to be able to cater to this industry need and like the way it will move in the future. So I think that's kind of like in a high level, like why we need this industry collaboration. And yeah, I mean, in terms of goals with footwear, it's everything we have achieved with textile, which is 100% MRSL compliance. And afterwards, it's going to more sustainable chemistry, which is the toxic-free fashion.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
I have here more 3 questions that I think most of them are for Elisa. One of them is, I have a multi-chemical formulation. How can I demonstrate to my customers that is ZDHC compliant? Elisa.
Yes. Yeah, I'm here. Yeah, thank you for this question. Indeed, I mean, the first way is to, you know, get an account on the gateway, as we said, being invited by a supplier or directly request invitation, and then go on our website. You can find there the full list of certification body which are accepted by ZDHC, and you can choose one that fits better with your you know, needs of certification. Go ahead with the certification. Once you receive the certificate, you have already the account on the gateway, you can upload this certificate on the gateway. This will be approved by certification body and then be visible to all the interested possible users. So two main steps are go on the gateway, create the profile, and select a certification body to, have a third-party demonstration that your formulation is in compliance with the MRSL.
Okay, it's clear. Another question is, I know the chemical control must be done from the beginning at raw materials production. However, I'm in the middle of the chain as a shoe components wholesaler. How can I be positioned in the gateway platform? And how can I take advantage for being there?
Yes, yeah, let's say that this is quite an interesting, questions, because we came over last year to, some evaluation on the fact that brands were able to go on the gateway, check for the suppliers, but brands are often using like a middle intermediate, which are not brand because they are not owning their own brand, but they are actually controlling a lot of suppliers. So we will launch soon new features, which will be, targeting the vendor, the intermediate category in a more clear way. In the meantime, you can still go on the gateway, and this will be useful for you to go into the supplier platform, in which you will be having some of the questions applicable mainly on the control of the supply chain. But you can, all of you can subscribe, for example, the ZDHC newsletter, if you're willing to keep updated. And as soon as we will launch these new functionalities, for example, this will be shared on our newsletter, and you will hear about that from brand. So let's say that it's a very specific and good question, because it was a point that required our attention over the last month and some new implementation. Okay,
one other question has to be is about costs of getting in the gateway. Yeah. So what is the cost? There is a cost for a company to get in this gateway.
Okay, yeah, for a supplier there are no costs to get into the gateway. The costs are related then to the testing of the wastewater, but they may depend on the lab that they are really willing to choose. There will be like a maintenance fee that is less than 200 euros when they do wastewater testing and they request the upload of the results from the lab. Also, for suppliers to enter the supplier platform is for free. So they can see all the questions, all the support document. If they want then to print a certificate when they reach out a specific level in the supplier platform, this is going to have a cost. But it's not mandatory, so you can enter the platform, check for the question, use the guidance document, and this will be for free. The costs for the formulators will depend upon the number of formulations that they are willing to upload on the gateway. We have a specific section on the website, which is named knowledge base, in which you will find all the costs, and you can, pick the slot which is more useful for you based mainly on the numbers of product that you are willing to upload. I really would like to put knowledge base in the ZDHC website. So I put
the message. Okay.
The knowledge base in the ZDHC website. This is really our point of truth. When you have doubts, when you have questions, there is also the possibility to submit new questions if they have not been answered yet. And also there are step by step everything you have to do once you go on the platform, screenshot by screenshot, what you have to click on, which options you have to select. So it's quite really a comprehensive platform. We also have, again, I will put it on the chat, the Academy of ZDHC, in which there are even some training activities which are for free. So we usually put some webinars on the MRSL, on the gateway, on the supplier platform, on the wastewater. So you can go there, subscribe, and you will have a portfolio of webinars that you can use to go deep into this topic. And via CTCP, we can even, keep in touch and go more deep in every of these topics in the future, because the program is now, I would say, quite complete. So there are multiple things to take into consideration. What is important is really to focus on the scheme, input, process, and output. This will really simplify the understanding of the whole program.
Yeah, sure. For what I understood, that there must be work from the side of footwear companies, their suppliers, and also from chemical products suppliers. That work must be done gradually, because it won't be possible. You spoke about 5 years in time, so it's step by step, and focusing in the management of these chemical substances and the use of your platform to get as in a kind of preventive way to make sure that the inputs in terms of chemical substances is according to your MRSL list. It's the focus. Talking about footwear and leather goods, bags and belts companies, what they should do as a first step to manage their chemical substances, the chemical substances that get in. They should do more or less like Joana said. They must analyze all the substances all the products that they use.
Yeah.
It's a general question for you, because we are ending. So it's
yeah. Let's say that, first of all, they should have like a good chemical inventory, which is a reference for them to understand what they use in the factory. And start a dialogue. For sure, the activity that was highlighted before is great, because they will start to identify hotspots, a critical situation. But for those chemicals in which they will not be able to identify any hotspot, the real added value will come in having a dialogue with the suppliers, because no one is asking you change the suppliers, is asking you involve your suppliers, because they will get benefit in doing this, because they will really, as you have seen, we have more than 170 contributors. Some brands, which are just counting one, they have a tenth of different marks. So Kering, for example, is one, but there are a lot of brands in the Kering group. LVMH is one over these 175, but they have a lot of brands. So, the road of those brands which are contributor is clear. So as soon as you are able to jump on the program, the more benefit you will have, because you are at the beginning. So you are starting to approach it, and this will be for sure recognized. But really is a dialogue. So no one is saying from tomorrow, if we are not on the gateway, no one will buy shoe to you. Absolutely not. We have seen already in some other category is like saying, okay, now there is this willingness to be a little bit more sustainable, a little bit more green, and maybe opening this dialogue, you will already discover that there is a lot of done, but maybe just not certified. So there is not so much to change, but just to prove it. This may really depend, but it's with the dialogue, the collaboration, and the common understanding of the issues that we can find a solution. Like the use case that Mia showed before. This is a great page, because even if you will find specific issues, you will work as a group to solve specific issues. This can be showcased to the other.
Okay, Joana, I don't know if you have anything to add about this question on footwear companies.
I think most of them are already working with, in contact, very with an effort to the suppliers. So even the components and the middle chain, but also the chemical products suppliers. So I think we are on the way, the good way. I hope it doesn't take 5 years.
We hope.
We hope so, yeah.
Okay, well, we are 5 or 6 minutes after the time scheduled to end this webinar. I think it was a very good webinar with a good explanation about this roadmap to zero. And so let me first of all thank to all the participants that have been here with us, listening to us, and then of course special thanks to our guests, Elisa, Gunawan Mia, and Joana. And I think that soon we'll have more news about this, and we'll have the opportunity to hear Joana, Elisa, and Gunawan about this this area, about this chemical management system, and about ZDHC, and about this program. Thank you very much to all of you, and see you soon. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you to you for the invitation. Really a pleasure.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.